It's the Gen Zer, and today we're going to react to this video by Fox Business titled Young Professionals Who Vote Against Republicans Flocking to Red States, says Schlott. Let's see what Fox Business has to say.
Young Americans fleeing Democrat run states. Gen Z folks left states like New Jersey, California, Illinois, and New York. Millennials are flocking too. Are we talking Gen Z people who are millennials?
These guys don't even know if it's Gen Z or millennials. I mean, they're starting out by just conflating the two generations together with one another. I'm sure there's some overlap, of course. There's some people who, especially between younger millennials and older Gen Zers, you might see them as one or the other, but they're two different generations. Of course, we don't expect Fox Business to know that. Carry on.
It's both. Okay. And millennials are
Both. Okay. He couldn't say both. And if let's just go back in the graphic here, it said Gen Z here, and then later on it says millennials. Um okay. Let's see why they let's see how they explain this data.
flocking to states like Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Ricky Schlott is with me this morning. What's doing? Why are Gen Z folks leaving? They don't pay taxes. What's going on?
Well, a lot of
Gen Z folks don't pay taxes. Of course. It's not like there's any Gen Zers working. It's not like there's a guy named FICA who needs a piece of their paychecks every single time that they get paid. No, that doesn't happen. Gen Zers working. Of course, that's a figment of our imagination. Enlighten us, oh wise one.
us do pay taxes, and we're starting to pay taxes, which
11
might
to
be
26 year
why.
olds don't pay much in tax.
No, however, the older Gen Zers, I think, are the ones that are moving. 11-year-olds aren't picking up and U-Haul into the next state if they're living with their parents still. But I would say
This guy doesn't even know where the generation starts and ends. Like, what's wrong with this guy?
for young professionals, they actively vote against Republicans, but actually seem to like some of the benefits, which would be a lower cost of living, perhaps more safety, and crime concerns are less rampant than in blue states and blue cities. But I think most of all, it's the taxes and also the ability. As a young person starting your career today, you can start somewhere else. You would traditionally go to a city.
So before she finishes there, let me address some of what she's listed as the reasons why this exodus or this mass exodus, as Fox Business claims to be taking place, is happening. So she stated that these young millennials are moving to states where Republicans have created this environment, um, which Gen Zers are more comfortable. Did I say millennials? I'm sorry about that. Well, we're focused on Gen Zers here, although they're bunching them up with millennials. Anywho, it seems that Gen Zers are moving to these red states, right? But Fox Business fails to state to which cities are these Gen Zers moving to. They act as if these Gen Zers are moving to the reddest cities in those red states. Now, we will not make any excuses for some of the blue states where there's mass exodus from there. For example, California is a state which is running a super high deficit. If I'm not mistaken, the deficit is approximately $70 billion. That is way too high. And of course, the taxpayer is going to be left with the bill. And as young people just starting out their lives, Gen Zers don't want to get taxed into oblivion, especially when you have to worry about the high cost of living in a state such as California. That's not that's not conducive to really starting out life on the right foot. Now, when Gen Zers move to conservative states, typically it doesn't seem as if they're moving to the reddest cities those conservative states have. They're not moving to small towns with 3,000 people. If, for instance, if they're moving to Florida, which, to be fair with you, is traditionally a purple state, but it's definitely turned red for over the past few years. Gen Zers are typically moving either to Miami, Orlando, or the Tampa Bay area, Jacksonville area, uh, or maybe around Tallahassee, all of which, maybe with the exception of Tallahassee, are all super bright blue cities. So just because we're in a conservative state, that does not mean that young people are moving into the conservative areas. And those cities tend to be the economic nucleus of those states. They're the economic nuclei in the plural sense. They're the economic nuclei of these states. But let's see if Fox Business touches on that. I highly doubt they're going to mention that, since let's be honest, they do have a bias. Just looked at the way just look at the way this gentleman presented the segment here. Horrible.
because you might have better job opportunities, but now you can be remote.
This is a long-running trend, though, isn't it? And it's probably not going to stop in the near future.
Yeah, although I would say that such young people going to non-urban centers is pretty unique, just because you can, you don't have to pay exorbitant rent just to have the job opportunity when you can post up on Zoom from
Sure.
a red state and pay less taxes and be happier.
Is it?
Once again, this is so disingenuous. First and foremost, they're implying that just because young people are moving to red states, that they're not moving to urban centers. They can easily just move to an urban center in a red state. It's not that difficult. They don't have any data which is showing the distribution of where exactly these Gen Zers are moving. They just show that, hey, these Gen Zers are leaving California and they're going to Florida. Okay, where in Florida did they move? Did they move to uh Pulahoki? I'm just naming. Okay, did they move to uh Okeechobee, Florida, or did they move to Miami? I mean, both of them are places in Florida, but of course, according to the presentation here, it doesn't make a difference.
It's not a return to rural America, is it?
I think it's a return to smaller urban centers and not necessarily just New York and LA. And I have a lot of friends who would have otherwise come to New York, but were able to take jobs and live somewhere else, and the cost of living is considerably different.
There are also large urban centers in conservative states. For example, let's see, if I'm not mistaken, the South Florida area it's certainly top 5 largest urban centers in the nation. Top 5 largest metro areas in the nation. I'm talking about Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. Yes. If I'm not mistaken, the Atlanta metro area is about the 8th largest metropolitan area in the nation. Let's see. Dallas Fort Worth, it's the 7th largest metropolitan area in the country. Houston, Texas. Houston is the 4th largest city in the union. I mean, what are we talking about here? These fools are acting like conservative states don't have any cities in them. They're like, are conservative states just backwater states with uh, no major uh, burgeoning cities, with no major nuclei of civilization? What are they talking about? And of course, yes, all of the urban centers which I've just named are blue cities. Now, I'm not here canvassing for the party of the donkey. No, I'm not. But I just want to point out the hypocrisy of these folks. So let's carry on.
But you live in New York City.
I do indeed.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm
Okay.
trapped.
Okay.
Oh, she lives in New York City. Oh my God, she's trapped in New York City. What a horrible fate. Is she living with the rats, or is she living in the sewer with the rats? I'm sure she's not staying in some some broken down apartment and paying 3,000 for it out in Queens or Brooklyn. She'll be okay.
Yeah, that's right. You have a new piece. I'm going to read it for you, read it for the audience. Bipartisan Congress wants to defund colleges over legacy admissions, and it's about time. Ricky wrote that, and she's with us this morning. You really don't like legacy admissions,
I
do you?
really don't like legacy
Why
admissions.
not? What's
It's
wrong?
true.
Wow. Okay. For people who claim to be conservatives, thank you for taking a consistent stance. For once, if you're against affirmative action, you probably should, chalk up legacy admissions to be in the same boat and to be against them, although not practical if you understand what the business of collegiate education is in this country. Although it's not practical, especially for Ivy Leagues, it's not practical at all. But it's certainly egalitarian, dare I say.
True. Well, so I'm in favor of this Merit Act. It would tie federal funding to requiring that schools don't have legacy admissions, because I think that, especially in the wake of the affirmative action case in the Supreme
Okay.
Court, we should be worried
Should.
about tacking towards meritocracy and going back to restoring faith in the fact that a diploma from an elite institution should mean that you don't have some sort of special interest of some immutable characteristic beyond your control. We should level the playing field. And I think a legacy should be able to be admitted, but they should be able to earn it without that status being known by an admissions officer.
But
Here's the issue. Well, for starters, let me give her kudos for her argument. I absolutely agree. Most state schools should not receive well, let me back up. Most state schools which are receiving funding from the federal government should not have any legacy admissions. Now, be that as it may, for schools which are of the upper tier, mainly the Ivy League schools, which have endowments, which essentially dwarf the GDP of most minor countries or most developed countries, or I'm sorry, of most developing countries, uh, they probably can and should keep their systems of legacy admissions, but they should not be receiving any federal funding since, once again, they have huge endowments. I mean, they have endowments which which would put the economy of most developing countries to shame. But I certainly agree. Just because for example, just because your daddy went to Georgia or University of Georgia and they're a proud bulldog doesn't mean that you get to be a bulldog by default. No, you gotta earn it, buddy boy.
legacy, what your mom and dad did and where they went and the money you've got, that should not be the sole criteria for you getting in.
Absolutely not.
May it be any kind of criteria at all.
Yeah, I don't believe it should be a criteria at all. And, it's up to
Why
schools.
are you so angry about it?
Because I'm not a legacy.
You-
But
I'm guessing if her daddy could have maybe, made a contribution, maybe the family could have gotten a building named after them and she would have been able to get in, and that would not be an issue in her mind. But she does sound like she's scorned. She sounds like she's scorned. I agree with her stand view. I agree with her standpoint, but still, it's a bit of an envious take, dare I say.
are you going to Columbia?
I'm taking one course in Columbia. Yes.
You got in
I did get in.
without any kind of
Without legacy admissions. But also, even if I did have a parent that went there, I wouldn't want to be walking around thinking, maybe I wouldn't be here otherwise. I think that self-doubt, whether it's non-white students on campuses or students with parents who donated or have a last name on a building, no one should be walking around thinking that anything other than their hard work and dedication is the reason that they're at an elite school.
Oh my goodness, we live in such an egalitarian society. Let me tell you something. If I got into an elite school because of my parents, I would not give a rat's ass, man. I'd just be happy I'm there. Okay, I'm here. It's time to party. And if I'm able to get in because of my parents, that probably indicates that I'm of the upper crust of American society. As in, I'm destined to be a part of the ruling class. I know it might be a bit controversial for me to say America has a ruling class akin to nobles back in the Middle Ages, but yeah, America has a ruling class. America has an elite class. And if you're attending these elite institutions of learning because your parents got in, not based on your merit, then you're certainly going to be part of that ruling class. And if I'm a part of that class, I could give a damn if I'm walking her out there and I'm sulking. Oh my god, mommy and daddy are the reason I got here. I'm doubting myself, even though I'm destined to become a top tier executive or a CEO or a high ranking member of government in the future if I just play my cards right. But yeah, I'm so disappointed in me because mommy and daddy did it. Cry me a river.
You want to make them feel guilty?
No, I'm saying that this will not make them feel guilty because they can, if they get in now with this new Merit Act, then they can feel comfortable and confident in their having earned their spot on campus. We know that 3 in 4 students in special interest groups at Harvard statistically would likely not have gotten in otherwise.
Okay, I think you've made your point. You're clearly annoyed about legacies, and
I am.
come and make the point again anytime you like.
Wait, what did she say?
Made your point.
Interest groups and they're having earned their spot on campus. We know that 3 in 4 students in special interest groups at Harvard statistically would likely not have gotten in otherwise.
Okay, I think you've made
75%. That is a high number. 75% would statistically have not gotten in otherwise. Well, once again, they're slated to be the elites. Of course, this is America. Anybody could become a noble if you so wish, if you have the work ethic. But the hereditary aspect does play a role in it. Am I mad at it? No. Do I sort of agree with her stance? I do. Um, but it is the way the society functions. Anywho, this was definitely a detour from what we were discussing about, which was young professionals who vote against Republicans flocking to red states. But I'll give one final take on that. Simply because people are moving to a state does not mean that they endorse the politics of that state. They may endorse the economic conditions. Doesn't mean that they might endorse the social policies of that state. And I'm sure there might be a point in time when you might see Republicans flocking to Democratic states. That has happened in the past, and it can certainly happen again. Are we going to say, oh, that's probably because they love the Democratic policies? No. But if the economic opportunities present themselves, so be it. But yeah, this is quite an interesting take. Let's see if they have anything else to say.
made your point. You're clearly annoyed about legacies, and
I am.
come and make the point again anytime you like.
Well, thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Rick. Good stuff.
Yeah, this guy, he really wanted to push the legacy point. Anywho, it's the Gen Zer. I want to know if you guys agree that, young professionals are leaving blue states to move to red states. I want to know if you guys agree with, with the opinion of Mr. Schlott there. Do you? Do you not? Do you agree with the young lady? Let me know down in the comment section below. You guys be sure to like and subscribe. We have much more videos coming out. We're going to be so consistent, dropping gems for you every single day. New reaction videos coming. Stay tuned. And let me know if you guys want me to react to anything specifically. Are there any topics you guys want me to cover regarding Gen Z? Are there any topics you guys want me to cover outside of Gen Z? Feel free to let me know. It's the Gen Zer, and I'm out. Peace.